You're listening to episode 13 of the In the Hub podcast, brought to you by PlayBox Technology UK. This week we have a very special episode where we'll be speaking to both Ben Gunkel, Chief Commercial Officer, and Phillip Neighbour, Chief Operating Officer at PlayBox Technology UK. We'll be discussing the history behind the infamous channel in a box, running through the early days of PlayBox, and highlighting where we're headed for the future. Really hope you enjoyed this episode. I'm excited to welcome both Phillip Neighbour and Ben Gunkel to the In the Hub podcast to discuss some of the history and the exciting future that lies ahead at PlayBox. So welcome to the podcast, guys. How are you both today?
Yeah, I'm great, and thank you very much for inviting us on this podcast.
Thank you, Neil. It's a pleasure.
So, we'll get straight into the questions if that's okay with you both.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Sure.
Awesome. So, Ben, I think we'll start with you. How did you get your start in PlayBox?
Well, it was a long time ago, once upon a time. So on my background prior to PlayBox was nothing to do with broadcast. It was purely sales-based, and I came from a recruitment background. It just happened by chance to be introduced to Don Ash, the late, great Don Ash, for an interview. I remember sitting there with Don thinking, this guy is unusual, but I quite like him. And he asked me some questions. I think the first one was, what do you know about television? Or what do you know about broadcast? I said, nothing. I honestly know nothing about it, but I know about audio. I grew up in a recording studio. My parents used to own quite a successful recording studio in East Anglia. So I spoke to him a little bit about audio files, digital audio files. He sent me away and didn't offer me the job. I was very disappointed. And I remember phoning the recruitment agency and saying, I think they've made a mistake because the company wanted somebody with sales experience, and I've got that. And they said, yeah, but you don't have the broadcast experience. So Don, he invited me in, he gave me another shot and eventually offered me the job, introduced me to the products. I'd never seen anything like it in my life. It was a computer that basically put video files in a playlist and played them out of this output called SDI, which I'd never heard of. And I had to learn pretty quickly. So after about 3 months of training, I went out and called every single person I could possibly think of. I must have made 100 telephone calls a day and just put the graft in. Eventually met a few customers and it built up from there. And really, I learned on the job. I attended every single trade show on earth, I think, and tried to absorb as much information as possible. But I think my enthusiasm sort of took over, and I enjoyed working with Don. Every day I worked with him. In fact, I could say I've had some of the most enjoyable days of my life working with Don. Some of the least enjoyable as well, but I think there was a definite bias towards most enjoyable. But yeah, sorry for the convoluted answer, but yes, that's how I got into it. No experience working on the.
But Neil, you have to remember, back in those days, integrated playout was really in its infancy, and it was Don and PlayBox that brought what we now call as a channel in a box to the market.
Yeah,
everybody had racks and racks of equipment, and I remember not having no involvement with PlayBox. All of us looking very skeptical. You know, this will never work. How are you going to replace 5 racks with a server and a bit of software? And this, so from Ben coming, talking about digital audio files, this is literally what PlayBox were doing. And it really broke the ground. And now today, everybody has an integrated playout.
Yeah.
But it's really due to the vision that Don had, and I think that came out of what Don was doing at Channel 4 with Ellis, was to have an integrated solution, something that you could just run on the computer. And it was really groundbreaking stuff.
Well, you can imagine, Neil, Phill comes from the background, which, no disrespect to you, Phill, but a bit more senior than I am in experience and years. Your background,
just being ageist now.
you were selling these racks of five racks of equipment to broadcasters, and then there was me coming in to these broadcasters, this young 25-year-old know-it-all from Essex, with effectively a PC with some Bulgarian software on it, telling these major broadcasters that these racks that they've just bought from Phillip Neighbour and his counterparts in other companies was going to end up in a museum in a few years' time, and if they didn't move with the times and buy this computer with this software on it, this PC with the software on it, that they were going to die. Basically, their business was going to die, and I can't tell you the number of times I got laughed out of the room, laughed out of meetings. And Don and I used to attend meetings and effectively told we were crazy. This is never going to take off. But
yeah, Ben, I seem to recall that when I was with another vendor, we had a meeting just after you with, I'm sure it was the BBC, when you and some colleagues, and I think Mike Timmis was involved, and they went through and said, "Now this, you're offering all this. PlayBox has just told us, but hasn't shown us that they can do it all in one server." And this was for a major project, And you have to also bear in mind that in those days, selling broadcast equipment was very, very profitable, and then you have an unknown company who is offering everything in one box, for a fraction of the price, which had the full functionality. And if you look back, time shows that everybody in the playout sector has moved far more to a software-based integrated playout solution. And for me, it's really good to be associated with the company that set this all up at day one. There was a lot of groundbreaking stuff that was happening. Software for playout was really in its infancy, didn't exist. So trial and error, even playing with different video cards, having a video card in the computer, just to play out serial digital was weird.
Yeah, but that was even stranger, because in the early days, the card did all the heavy lifting. Remember these Matrox cards were thousands and thousands of pounds, and they did all the processing, all the heavy lifting. But PlayBox came out with this internal processing engine that took the heavy lifting away from the video card and did it all in software. And Phill, you just mentioned trial and error. There are so many occasions where in order for us to gain any kind of credibility, for PlayBox to gain any kind of credibility, we had to put a PlayBox system into these traditional playout centres and run a parallel channel in line with their traditional playout systems and run it on a PlayBox with the same playlist, the same media, and they would test them out. And the challenge was, right, we'll leave you with this machine, try and break it. And quite often people come back to us and say, blimey, this is amazing. This PC can keep up with our kit, and it costs about 20% of the price of the traditional broadcast systems that Phillip Neighbour's trying to sell to us. And it was quite an interesting time, a bit surreal because it was still in its infancy. But the challenge for us was getting system integrators on board and getting dealers on board, because like you said, Phill, there was a massive amount of money to be made in broadcast playout equipment, and PlayBox was offering the same thing for peanuts basically in those days.
I mean, I'm not going to lie, guys, you've basically answered the next 4 questions with that one.
Lovely. Right, see you later then. Cheers, Neil.
So I mean, I know we've basically covered it, but I mean, in a way, could you both summarise kind of how the infamous channel in a box arrived in our industry?
There were 3 pillars of PlayBox, which was low cost, reliable, and easy to use. And to be honest, that's all people wanted. Phill mentioned operators. They wanted a system that was easy to use. Business owners wanted a system that was low cost, and satellite operators wanted a system which would give them a reliable signal. So the whole idea of Channel in a Box was to give people those three things: low cost, easy to use, reliable. And we managed to do it right. Our strap line for a long time was 100% functionality for 25% of the cost. And it completely transformed the broadcast playout industry.
Yeah, but Ben, that's really important today as well, because broadcasters and service providers are really de-skilled, and having a GUI which is very easy to use, if you can use a Microsoft, like Word, Excel, then you can use PlayBox, and it's nowadays value for money is what everybody's looking for. Reliability, not having to have highly skilled staff, so you obviously have the ease of putting in untrained operators and quickly training them up. I think that's one of the strengths still today of PlayBox, and that's something that we're trying to do as we move more and more into the cloud. So we're currently working on effectively integrated playout via the web, either a hybrid cloud model or a 100% cloud model, and we're trying to go back on our core values of easy to use, full functionality, at really good value for money. I think the values have really changed over the years, Ben.
I agree with you. Don't forget, Airbox was launched in 1999, and in 1999, Facebook wasn't even a thing. It was the idea of social media, Instagram, even YouTube wasn't even around then. This is way before social media took off. And what PlayBox did was empower broadcasters. It gave them everything they need. And it worked. I understood it because I had grown up in a recording studio. The audio business was not really too dissimilar, because I do remember as a child going into the studio. My first ever job when I was at school, my dad gave me bottle of isopropanol and some cotton swabs and made me clean the tape heads on the reel-to-reel. We had an Ampex and Studer multi-track recorder and mastering recorder, and this was all done on tape. And bands would come in, they booked weeks and weeks and weeks of sessions to record albums and spend, days tuning and getting the sound right on the drums. And then all of a sudden, we fast forward to now, recording studios are still there, but people can record stuff on their laptop at home. And the reason they can do that is because the industry and the technology innovators have empowered the musicians to be able to do that. And it's not really that different in television. And there's a huge number, there's a pyramid in broadcast. You've got the big channels right at the top, and there's very few of them. But we made our successes not just there, but in the rest of the pyramid. So all these independent channels, community channels, religious channels, you name it, they just wanted a way of getting their stuff on television, and they didn't really have deep pockets. So a PlayBox was a dream for them because it gave them all the power to be able to manage their own playout. And all they needed to do was put that system in a data center, have a means of transmission and a license, and away they went. And God, there were thousands of them, thousands and thousands.
But you're absolutely right, Ben. If you look at the audio industry, when it went from multi-track on 2-inch, 1-inch tape to TIAC and Fostex bringing out Porter Studios, exactly the same thing is happening with web-based playout. You're finding lots of small user groups are starting to do what we used to call a television channel, to the community. You mentioned Facebook earlier on. Yeah, well, we got about thousands of outputs going into Facebook and YouTube directly out of PlayBox. It's great to think that this company, it's actually making me feel very proud, has really done a lot for the industry. And, we now have major clients. Even in the IT space, I mean, Cisco use PlayBox. major broadcasters, most of the big sporting events, the premium sporting
Premier
events,
League stuff and Formula.
are coming through Playbox, and it's really good.
But I probably shouldn't have used an example of the audio industry, because that's actually going. There's a demand for old analog equipment. But can you imagine the broadcast industry going back to its roots, Phil? And
No.
tape-operated MCRs with 50 people in there pulling levers. It's just not going to happen.
But it's called job creation, Ben. Maybe. But I mean, I'm really proud. This conversation has made me feel really warm inside. I mean, Playbox has done so much. I used to work for a large major organization. Playbox is a medium-sized company, which is totally flexible. We're not going from quarter to quarter. Oh, you've got to get the quarterly figures here at this level because it affects the share price. It's a totally privately owned company. Yeah. And we do what is needed to be done to keep our customers happy, to keep up with technology. But at the same time, we work hard, but we have fun at it. And we hope that our customers also enjoy working with us. It's, the philosophy here is totally different. Yeah, we need to make money to support our customers, because if we're not making a profit, then there's no way we can support any of the companies. But we have great deal of fun. We care about the community.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. So I mean, I just wanted to track back a little bit, Ben, and I'm just curious and quite interested in kind of what Playbox was like back in 2008, 2009. Is there any memories you can lend us or anything like that to kind of show us, what the future of broadcast technology and play out was looking like at that point?
I remember my first day. Don was sitting in this office, and these are the days when you were allowed to smoke indoors, Neil. This is a very long time.
I can hardly remember those times.
Just on the cusp of thing. But I remember Don sitting there with this server next to him with this software running. I remember him showing me this software. And all I could think was, hang on a minute, I don't understand this, because when I think of television and broadcast and cutting to adverts and all these other things that they do in the control room, I think there's people doing this. And there's somebody there with the mic on telling them to go to ad break in 3, 2, 1, take, and however they work. That's what I had in my mind. And I thought, then it struck me that actually it was actually very similar to a fruit-based music program that was available around about that time. And it just made sense. You didn't have to put physical media into drives anymore. And I thought, hang on a minute, right, this is really exciting and I can get behind it. And Playbox as a brand and the whole idea of a channel in the box was, we were very much the underdogs, and getting in the door to meet these people after you'd explained to them on the telephone what it is that you're proposing, just getting through the door was a major achievement. And you would be gobsmacked if you're able to see how many times we got turned away because we were considered to be these crazy dreamers. It's never going to happen. And I remember several other manufacturers coming to visit Playbox in our offices, other manufacturers who were major competitors to Playbox, coming in and sitting with us and saying, how have you done this? Tell us. We want to know. Obviously, we didn't tell them.
No, of course. And that's where we're at today. Do you think that kind of the ease of use and the relative, simplicity kind of behind the channel in the box and integrated playout was one of the reasons that many of these kind of companies you went to go and see, many of these broadcasters were so apprehensive to take it on? Do you think I
think it was down to the fact that these a lot of broadcasters at the time made their money off of employing people who were very clever, who could press all the buttons and they could charge a lot of money for doing it. Suddenly the idea that you're going into a broadcaster, a small independent broadcaster, and explaining to them, you don't have to pay someone else to do all of this for you, my friend. You can buy this server, which is equivalent in cost to about a month of your current rental program, and you can buy it and own it, and you can operate it yourself. And the fact that I understood how to use it without any broadcast experience meant that I could get behind it and explain it to, no disrespect to some of these customers, but some of these people didn't understand how broadcast worked either. That is why they were paying all that money to the broadcast service providers. And we were effectively then cutting out the service provider and saying to the channel owner, right, here you go, do it yourself, get that installed in a data center or an uplink center, and you can operate that remotely, and you can do it all on your own. You haven't got to pay someone else to do it. I think that was the point where people realised the industry was changing.
So, I mean, I want to touch on the topic of kind of trade shows and exhibitions. So I just kind of want to ask you guys, how important were these exhibitions and trade shows to PlayBox's success?
The trade shows were incredibly important. It was the opportunity to show customers your new products. In my early times, it was very much smoke and mirrors. You would show something that maybe in 2 years' time would be available. It gave you the opportunity to bond with the customers and make it a lot more of a social event. Despite the fact that we have now COVID-19, I think the trade shows were probably dying off because everything is available online. For lots of organizations, trade shows are a major expense. I've worked for companies that spend over $1 million just to attend a trade show, and that's a lot of money to come off your bottom line. What I do miss is the networking, to actually personally be with the customer, to share experiences and have a number of customers together. You can say, have you tried this? Have you done that? So that's that side of it I miss. Standing on an exhibition stand all day. Well, Ben may like it because he's always fueled with alcohol. But for me, it got a bit too much.
So, I mean, are there any particular years of trade shows and exhibitions that you guys class as particular highlights, or do they, kind of all merge into one?
For me, I remember the 2009 to about 2012, that 3-year period of everybody asking about Edgebox, scratching their heads. 1 minute it's a small independent-owned TV channel looking at the product, buying the product. Next thing we know, there are huge global channel operators and networks asking us about products. And I just remember every trade show going through this workflow with people still saying, I don't see how it can work. And then wheeling out examples of working channels.
Did you used to find it quite satisfying, Ben, being able to show them basically, and prove them wrong?
Yeah, it's a bit like someone challenging you to a game of table tennis and thinking you're going to be crap at it, but then they don't realise that you're actually 7 times world champion. And it was like that. It was very satisfying showing them you're wrong, and then being able to give them the opportunity to try it themselves. Actually, that was very satisfying. But they stood out for me. But I remember crazy years of PlayBox having 90 square meters at IBC and BVE and big stands at NAB, and it's a huge expense.
So, I mean, Phil, focusing on you now, when you first joined in 2014, was it, what were your first impressions of PlayBox?
I came from a very large manufacturer. I came into PlayBox because of Don Ash. I really liked the atmosphere. The whole approach was totally different. There was actually people who cared about what was going on, as opposed to the numbers. So the company was doing relatively well at that period of time. There had been a big boom in playout, and PlayBox had its tentacles all over the place. Also, it was very important to me that the company just specialised in the play-out market. Its core business was play-out. Playbox still does, but lives and breathes play-out. We don't know anything else. We're good at doing one thing. And that was refreshing, whereas, most of Playbox competitors and where I'd come from had a product for post-production, production, play out, everything. And to find a company that just specializes in one area. And I think still today that Playbox Technology is the largest independent play-out specialist in the market.
So, I mean, obviously you've touched on this as well, pride being a kind of major aspect. To summarise, are you both proud of what you've achieved during your time at Playbox and what Playbox has achieved?
Very proud of Playbox. We still have a lot more to achieve. Technology is changing all the time, and we have to keep several steps ahead of it. For me, it's been a great time. I've learned a lot, and I still have more to learn. And I've built up some really good relationships with our customers, far more than just a work-based relationship. So, yeah, it's part of my life, and it's a part of my life that I'm happy about.
And for me, it's the biggest thing for me was seeing. Actually, there were two things. One of them was seeing these TV channels that would never have been able to put their content out had it not been for Playbox. Is seeing those grow, become successful, and also, I think more importantly, was that we grew a team at Playbox, and I ran the sales team for a long time. And the biggest thing for me was seeing them do well, and knowing that I trained them and brought them on board, and they became successful themselves, and that made me feel very proud. So,
but that massive growth you got from Playbox, Ben, must have really made you proud, happy.
Yeah, but it's
you achieved so much against major competitors. Big $billion+ organizations.
Oh yeah, it was quite satisfying bringing successful deals home and knowing that we'd beat big global brands, as you say. But to me, honestly, it's the biggest satisfaction was having the team, and none of it would have been possible without the team. And that's everyone from the developers to the support.
Yeah, none of it would have been possible without Don, and I think we have a lot to be grateful.
100%. I think he'd be proud of where we are today as well.
Yes, yeah.
But he would still be kicking our asses.
To kind of summarise, guys, what does the future hold for Playbox? You can summarise it in one word if needs be, or you go in as much detail as you please. What does the future hold for Playbox?
The future for Playbox is based around the cloud. Different forms of playouts onto different platforms, social media platforms, closed user groups, communications with large organizations. There's a lot. Yep, the scope changes, but the technology behind it doesn't change. We're here to deliver content so people can consume that at home, at work. There's a lot to do. The cloud is playing a more and more important part. Hybrid cloud is just taking off now. But the future, who knows where it goes to? All I do know, I'm pretty sure that there will be a Playbox which would just concentrate in delivering content, scheduled content to people at home. Although Ben may have a far better vision than I do.
I agree with you, Phil. For once, it's
you should see the money in your bank account now, Ben.
Thanks.
And guys, I mean, just to finish off with, I was just going to ask Ben, have you got any exciting things in the pipeline? What's been going on with you?
It's been an interesting year, 2020. So we had our first child in April, right in the middle of the lockdown. So having only just recently rejoined the PlayBox team, I've been able to spend the last few months every day with my little boy while he's growing up. So, I look forward to if he grows up to be like me, then he's going to be an absolute terrorist. And I look forward to all the excitement that's going to bring.
No,
but yes,
that
that's a big thing for me at the moment. Complete change of lifestyle and outlook on life, bringing up a child is something I thought I wouldn't do, but I'm glad that I have. And so he's my focus now.
Yeah, and the best thing that's happened to me is that Ben used my first name as his son's second name.
Actually, it's with one L. It's my father-in-law, Phillip. You're not that lucky, mate.
Don't flatter yourself, Phil.
So I've had a terrible year now.
And I mean, Ben, how can people get in touch with you if they want to find out more about PlayBox?
If people want to get in touch to discuss anything from childcare to touring with the band, or to discuss PlayBox, they can find me at ben@playboxtechnology.com.
Phil, anything exciting going on that you can divulge with PlayBox at the moment?
Not at this point in time. We have an exciting time planned ahead of us. We're doing a lot of revolutionary cloud development for Playout, which I can't really go into very much detail, but please stay tuned. What we did for integrated Playout, channel in the box, we're doing that in the cloud.
So yeah, thanks for coming on, guys. It's been a really enlightening experience. Quite a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.